Hi everyone, I'm Sandra Ingerman and welcome to the Shamans Cave.
And I'm Renee Baribeau, and we are excited to be here today. And we have a topic that's a real doozy.
Yeah. Yeah, one of the things Renee and I chat a lot before our show, and one of these days we'll put on the record button, but basically it's really not for the public. So
We would have no public if they were listening to
yeah.
us.
So I was telling Renee that a few weeks ago I had this dream. It was an epic dream, and it was all filled with metaphor. It was so filled with metaphor about a house with pipes broken in it and all that. But the bottom line of the dream was that the core of every issue I have in this lifetime is that as soon as I came into this world, I started being judged. I didn't talk until I was 3.5 or 4, and blah, 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 blah. Parents, school teachers always looking at you. You write I wrote a paper in college from the deepest part of my soul, and my English teacher gave me a C. And I said, how could you judge the deepest what I wrote from the deepest part of my soul? I don't understand. Could you please tell me? And so I was so in touch in this dream with the rage of that I've not been seen for who I am. I've just been judged my whole entire life. And I realized that not every topic touches people who we speak to. We're not every one of us dealing with the same issues. And judgment, you might go, judgment, I don't feel judged. But I realized the tension in my body of not really always being able to be myself. I mean, I've lived a very alternative lifestyle and went way beyond what most people would do because they'd stop because of the judgment. And I just carried on through the judgment. But I realized I ate that energy
Mhm.
of judgment, and that what it did was it tightened my muscles to a place where the rage of who who has the right to judge me really came up. And in the dream, I was screaming out the rage, just screaming out the rage. And I started to think about how in our culture, that's what we do. We sculpt people through judgment.
Well, I got a D on my first college English paper because he asked he asked us to write about a significant event. And my significant event was that I got on the Greyhound bus and went to college. I took the bus to college because my mother's husband couldn't get go the day I wanted to go. He couldn't go till the next day. I mean, later on in my life, I realized that I was just a spoiled brat and I wanted to be there for the first party till the very last party. But that for me, that was the most significant event was that I had to take the Greyhound, transfer in Boston. Here I am, a pioneer, the first one to go off to college, and I took a bus. And whether or not somebody else would have driven me, it doesn't even really matter. But this idea of judgment, I mean, we get judged all the time, especially as community leaders and teachers. I mean, yesterday somebody said to me about like, well, the leader of the community shouldn't, or I mean, that's like, I should do this and I should do that. I remember going to elementary school and I didn't really care about what other people thought too much because I do feel like I do get judged and I stop. But my sister, I don't know if I did it sometimes if I was judged, I'd do something out of spite. Like I wore different colors knee socks to school one time, and one was rolled up and one was rolled down, and my sister was mortified, and I didn't even notice. So I don't know if I just walk through with blinders on so that I don't even, the judgments don't even hit me. But this idea of eating judgments until you're enraged is a really profound and important topic.
Yeah, and I realized that it is what has affected my health.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like my body got to the point where it was like, I just can't take this on anymore. And of course, I can see the posts on the Shamans wall. Well, it's all how you react to what your life brings you. And I do believe that. I really do believe that. And so I'm trying to start to work on unwinding my
Mm-hmm.
reaction, because I really didn't know. I just kind of went through life. I remember I refused to dissect a frog in junior high school, and I was sent to a psychiatrist because of it.
Oh.
Um, and
I put the guts into somebody else's purse.
I just I couldn't understand
She
how anybody
got
would dissect a frog, and I refused. Ethically, I
that
refused.
was great.
And I got sent to a psychiatrist. And so I went through my life. I never stopped. I lived in a commune. I did what I wanted to do, and I thought I got away with it. I
Hmm.
really did. But I didn't realize that a part of me was hypervigilant to how I was looking to
Right.
other people, because I am anything but your normal, well, not your normal, but what would be called a typical Westerner on this planet. And I know I belong to a whole class of a lot of us where we're not crazy. We work with spiritual practices that bring us into a different dimension of reality, and society doesn't understand it.
Hmm.
And it really is about, how do we find just feeling comfortable within ourselves and just blocking out that judgment. Um, because we are a presence. We are a presence that's doing a lot in the world, but it doesn't mean everybody's going to see it, you know.
Hmm.
Um,
One of my first partners was a jazz singer, and the lesson was that at that time, like 3% of the population, and I don't know if this changed at all, liked jazz. And so I always considered myself special, that I was part of the 3% club, that, you know, that like you, that I didn't belong to a commune, but that all of those things made me extra special. And now now I could see where, even though that would be the case, that even the judgment of thinking that it was an extra special, or that I needed to be extra special because just being all of what I was wasn't enough.
right.
Like that's kind of a really a deep and probing thought, and I would just wonder where that unwinding will take us. Maybe I'll do a
Mhm.
wind whistling later to unwind some judgments, if we have time today.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. I have to say, my biggest role model in my life, I was always put in gifted classes that I really didn't belong in. So they were very challenging for me because I didn't belong in them. And in junior high school, I had a chemistry teacher, and she was the biggest role model in my life. I will never, ever forget her. I wrote about her in Medicine for the Earth. And you were graded in class when you raised your hand and on every test, not whether or not you got the right answer, but what was your thinking process to get
Mm.
there? And if you put out the energy, even if your thinking process was north when it should have been south, you got an A because you were willing to show up and say what was coming through you, what led you to this place. So it was in junior high school to have a chemistry teacher who it was only unconditional love. She used to sit there in class and say, I will not spoon feed anybody in this class. You have to think for yourself. You have to learn for yourself. And I got an A and I never got a right answer, ever, And so that's it's, for me, it comes up to, and then I'd really love for Renee to do a wind whistle after whatever she would like to say. For me, it's about bringing back in that feminine principle. Because we're really, for me, I feel like I fought so hard to not let the patriarchal energies, I'm not saying men versus women, I'm talking about archetypal energies. I did not, I felt I did not let the patriarchal energies squash me, but I didn't realize the effect that they had on me. And there is a solution. And the solution is we have to bring back more in those feminine energies of, instead of judging, which is more of a kind of Newtonian way of looking at things, to a more expanded view and dancing with the energy of the other person, and making it more of an energetic dance of where does this fit in the whole puzzle, and how is this person brilliantly putting something into the whole puzzle, not what are they doing wrong, but what is their soul leading them to, so that we're all making the contribution that our soul wants to make. And we're doing it more from a feminine place of a dance instead of a strict, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. And so I just think it tags on to the issues so many of us have been dealing with over the years. Is it's time to bring back a more feminine way of to balance out, not to take over, to bring more balance into the vertical order. We've been living under a vertical order, and how do we make it more horizontal so that we all understand our place?
Right. The sun doesn't get mad at the moon. Because when you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, oh, they were putting her in all the advanced classes and they were putting me in all the slow classes. Because we moved every year when I was in elementary school. So I got to the new school too late. So I couldn't, even though I had a tonette and I was playing the little tonette in the other course. No, there's no room in the musical class for you, Renee. Then I moved again, and then the next year it was like, well, I think this is the English class that you should be in. And meanwhile, the other class or the math class, whatever it was the class that I was actually studying in the other school. And so I felt like, well, you're just stupid and go sit in the back of the room. And I remember feeling so bad that I didn't sleep for a couple of days, like, because they were thinking that I should be in the slower learners class. And like that there is even this idea of a slower learners class as opposed to all of the smarter person's class. Like, instead of, wow, what diversity we bring when we have the smarter people, because I'm street smart. And most of my friends will tell you I can figure out anything. And so imagine what those really book smart people could have learned from having a more well-rounded, holistic experience if the class had the people who were the slower learners and the middle learners and the other learners, instead of saying, oh no, we want the bell curve, and those who are in the middle can be here, and the rest of you are going to feel like the misfits.
Right. Right.
And so we're holding it either way. As you talk, I'm like, wow, I held that I just, and even still today, like I'm doing a talk at the addiction conference, and I always say, yeah, I'm doing it with my smart friend Lauren, because she's a PhD. Whether or not, and Sandra's there, wow, Renee, that's the most brilliant topic. And I'm there, yeah, I came up with it, but I still think that she got the PhD, so I'm the letter less than in the equation.
Right.
Isn't that craziness?
No, it is. It's crazy. I work like I work so hard to get my CEUs to keep my psychotherapist license. I have two licenses in the state of New Mexico, and I work so hard to keep those licenses. And I keep asking myself, I haven't had a psychotherapy practice in 30 years. I've had a shamanic practice. Why, what is it that I
Hmm.
need to be validated that I work so hard every year? Because the CEUs required to keep your license is crazy here. Um, and what does it mean? Why does it mean that much to me to hang a license on the wall that I'm the only person who ever sees, Um, and it's not just me. It's a whole. I believe we strive to try to get that acceptance, but again, I feel like we've tipped the edge of what's healthy, and we probably tipped it hundreds of years ago. But in the span of the human race, that's not a long time, and really about bringing in more of a feminine model of acceptance. I had the same thing when I went to graduate school, and I had two people who were my advisors who were into Ronkian therapy, and Ronkian therapy is just unconditional love. Anything you do is unconditional love. So there were no grades. You got no grades because whatever you did was perfect. And I bloomed, I blossomed because I was having a really, really hard time. It was a time of my life where I was having a problem trying to figure out where I fit in socially. I was working at San Francisco State. I was in a very alternative graduate school, and I was in a place of getting lost in judgment. And to have two men in my life who, whatever I said, whatever I did, was perfect, it helped me to blossom
Hmm.
into the teacher who I am today, besides it was either Mrs. Goldman or Mrs. Goldsmith in junior high school who helped me blossom. She taught me to think for myself, that nobody was going to think for me except for me. Um, and that's the feminine perspective we need again right now. It doesn't mean every behavior is okay, that if you go out and shoot somebody, from the feminine, we give you
Do it
unconditional
with your
love.
girl gun.
I'm not talking about that, but you know what I'm saying. To be accepted for what you're bringing, what you're bringing. But then what that brings up for a lot of people is, what am I bringing? Because I've been told what I've been bringing.
Hmm. Yeah, this is just such a big thing. Well, when we were talking earlier, the idea of doing a little bit of an unwinding to see what those self judgments that we have about ourselves came in, and so I thought, well, let's do that. We'll do a we'll, and so I pulled a wind, and the wind that wants to come in to help us do this is Strebog, the Slavic wind of dispersal.
Mm,
And so, how interesting that we want to release some judgments and do that for ourselves, but that we want to discover what our nature's gift is.
Right.
Like, what do we like? What am I, a maple tree, or am I an oak? Instead of, am I a smart oak?
That's right. Yeah.
So if you want to get relaxed, everyone, and we'll
And
do
I'm going
that.
to move myself out of the way so
Okay.
Renee has the
And
screen.
I'm going to invite everyone to close your eyes. And I think for this journey, since Sandra and I were talking about grade school, let's go back to a desk of ours when we were sitting in grade school, if that feels comfortable, or in a yard when you were at grade school. About that age where you started to discern yourself different from your family and your friends. Imagine yourself going out to the playground or some kind of a park or wherever you were playing with other children, or maybe you're alone. And as you're standing there, imagine what ideas you've already formed about yourself, how you look, how you talk, how smart you are, where you are in relationship to your family members. And see how those are forming a thread around you, like almost like those baseballs that are woven with all the threads of our beliefs about ourselves. Might be tightly wound, it might be not so tightly wound. But I'm going to call to Streebog, and what we're going to do is we're going to imagine ourselves spinning counterclockwise. And if you get dizzy, just sit down, stop, and we're going to start to unwind those strands of our self judgments about ourselves and see what we're left standing with. What are we in nature? So start that spinning. And as you're spinning counterclockwise, let go. Let's see things flying off. Let them go floating off with the wind. And as you get down to the essential of yourself, what are you harmonizing with in the nature surrounding around you? The wind, the clouds, the trees, the grass. Find yourself at home in the nature. Now look at yourself up and down. And when you take away all of those judgments and you're just you in nature, how does that feel? And now disperse that energy forward out into the world. We're going to have Streebog help us redisperse our energy from this place where we are our essential self in nature. And examine your energy bubble now. How do you feel in it? And you can come back when you're ready. And hopefully our loads are a little lighter.
that was really beautiful. I could really feel, that unwinding, the starting of the unwinding, and I always love how the wind supports the unwinding process. It doesn't
Hmm.
let you hold on to anything.
Exactly. If you need to go back outside in a strong wind or a steady wind, and really go outside and spin around in the wind. And I do a wind bath where I actually turn to each directions. And when I'm feeling the wind coming up my right hand, it always feels different than when it's coming up my left hand, or my back or my front. And really use that that energetic of the wind to keep unwinding these ideas about yourself. And what it felt like, so for me, when I unwound myself and stood in nature as part of it, like an integral part of it instead of something different or separate from it. And what a great place that would be to source from. And when I sourced out and sent that out to nature, I felt like a much bigger, broader connection to things.
Mm.
That was my experience.
Yeah, and that's why so many people who feel different spend so much time in nature because they feel that nature accepts them.
Hmm.
Nobody feels rejected by nature. I mean, we have the storms that come in that can destroy, where we lose a lot of things in our life, and there's sadness around that. But when we just go out into nature, not during a catastrophic event, we're always met with love, and even during a catastrophic event, we're being met with love. We just don't know it because we're
Hmm.
dealing with loss at the same time. But yeah, thank you, Renee. That was really beautiful.
And we'd love to hear from you. What was your experience, or what are those pieces that you're holding on to, or what did you let go of? More important, not what we all know what we've been holding on to forever. So, what parts are you letting go to, or what new insights? Like, Sandra's brilliant new insight this week for herself. How does that inform you? So share that on the Shaman's Cave wall or in the YouTube. And we want to thank you for subscribing. I think we're up to 10,300 subscribers now, and
Um,
it's
Yay.
really, we're getting several thousand downloads a week on Apple, the iTunes podcast. So please keep supporting us. And we've gotten a real lot of generous contributions lately. We appreciate that too, because Sandra and I pay for this podcast. So when you feel in your heart that you want to donate, it goes towards the distribution and the editing costs for this podcast. So we thank you for those as well.
Yeah, and we really love the support that you're giving us. The emails that we're getting are, some of them just make me cry,
Hmm.
because of the help that people feel that they're getting. And so let people know about our show, because more and more people are finding out about it, and we're getting really good feedback. And Renee and I are committed to helping us bridge into this new time that's being woven into being right now. So thank you, everyone.